Radio Rahim with Eddie Hearn. You know, everybody online and in the boxing community has somewhat of a different version when it comes to these kind of things. We've experienced this before. Everybody's an expert and nobody really knows anything. So I won't pretend to be an expert. What I'd like to do, though, is at least give some clarity to all the speculation. So if you could, just kind of take me through a TikTok. I know that this was a VADA testing. And how first was that decision made that you would pay for this, and who decided that they wanted it?
Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. We've got a very good track record of insisting on VADA testing as well. Both guys wanted VADA testing for this fight. Both guys obviously also signed up to UCAD testing as part of the British Boxing Board of Control. UCAD testing, just for reference, is the only agency that the British Boxing Board of Control acknowledge and abide by. Okay, so VADA testing is not an agency that makes rulings. It reports information. So it reports information to Matchroom and to Wasserman regarding the testing of those fighters.
And the British board is not beholden to VADA to make any kind of ruling.
They don't acknowledge VADA. They don't take any notice.
Yeah.
All their suspensions and their rulings are based on UCAD findings.
And UCAD has found nothing?
UCAD have tested multiple times in this training camp, and all of his tests have been negative. Okay, so in that respect, Conor Benn is not suspended by the British Boxing Board of Control, and he's clear to fight. The issue is there was an adverse analytical finding, and you have to be careful when you say a positive test, because there was another fighter in our camp who went through a whole process only to find out he never failed a test. Okay, that was Dillian White. So this process has to unfold. But regardless of that, the board do not acknowledge that agency. So what I'm saying to you is, however that unfolds, has no relevance to the decision of the British Boxing Board of Control allowing Conor Benn to fight in terms of his license. Okay?
Right.
So from there, when we receive...
Let me take you to when you received the news, because yes, the British board may or may not call the fight out, but the fighters have a say so too. So when you get this information, you call or contact...
We were made aware at the same time. Because of this VADA testing, okay? So the situation is that from there, we have a conversation with Callis Howland and Team Eubank, which is firstly... Right. Okay.
And when did this happen? Because people think it happened.
Because, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Trace findings of a substance that all of a sudden, Team Wasserman turn around and say, "Okay, we need to see all the information." Okay. We go through an extensive process with all the information, all the levels, all the blood tests from the testing, the results of other tests around that testing. Wasserman take it to the medical expert or a medical expert that consults with Team Eubank, and they say, in light of the levels, in light of no raised testosterone levels, etc., etc. I mean, this is stuff to go in later. We are comfortable, or you should be comfortable with the fight taking place. Okay, right. So from there, and that was a period of that time. The British Boxing Board of Control were also aware of this process. Team Eubank turn around and say, "I am happy for the fight to proceed on the medical advice that I have been given." Okay, so. Then the British Boxing Board of Control came out today, thanks very much, when we spent all our money, and said, actually, we're not happy for the fight to take place. So what we're saying to them is, okay, you're not suspending Conor Benn, are you? And they say, no. And you're not going to? No. So he's clear to fight? Yes. But you're not allowing him to fight? Yes. So what we need is clarity in terms of that situation, because everyone's saying to us, we'll use another commission or get an injunction. We don't want to go down that route. We want to speak openly with the Board of Control to get answers, because the bigger picture here is when this fight could take place. In a worst case scenario of this fight not taking place on Saturday, if Conor Benn is not suspended, which he won't be, when can the fight take place? Do you understand? So it's like...
So let me interject some of the speculation and questions that are popping up from reaction. 2 weeks ago, you knew this. British board apparently knew it 2 weeks ago. It appears that there's some kind of cover-up. Like, why don't you tell us when the results came in that this fight was in jeopardy?
There's no cover-up because everybody knew about it.
But not the public.
Or you wanted me to tell you?
Well,
ultimately, there's a legal precedence of information being released on stuff like that. The most important thing is that the teams are made aware. Probably wasn't actually to it, but close to it. They have to go through a process to analyse all the findings. Okay, when that test comes out, VADA are a reporting agency to report, and this process of testing to the teams. So from there, and one of the reasons is there has to be a process and a hearing for the fighter to go through. If you release that information to certain people, a lot of crazy people, straight away, the fighter's hung out to dry. We saw it with Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte goes through the process, found absolutely not guilty of any violation, right? So that's why. And also because it was dealt with, it was analysed, and it was decided by the teams they were happy to proceed.
And what the British board has said is not that he's suspended, but that this is not in the interest of boxing. Yeah. And, the internet is forever. So people are pulling up all your old quotes, Canelo all the way to Miller, right? If this test can't be resolved by Saturday, is this in the interest of boxing? And is that something that you have to consider? I think we need to do the relevant process and information regarding that test before we make any kind of comment or decision on that process. But what we also have to look at is we need clarity in terms of the British Boxing Board of Control do not acknowledge that test or VADA or testing. So therefore, what is the process? This is what I'm getting at, Rahim. He's clear to fight right now. Okay, so I understand the statement from the board, but I'm also saying, okay, so when is this in the best interest of boxing? Because you're not suspending him. You don't acknowledge that. He has passed all the tests with your official agency. So again, it would seem unlikely that this is resolved, like a B test comes or something is completely cleared up by Saturday. That not being the case, are we looking at an exhibition?
No. Okay. At the end of the day, the fight takes place on Saturday, or it's postponed. It's one of the two scenarios. There'll be no show going ahead without this main event. And people have said to us, just do the main event as an exhibition, or do it with another commission. Or I don't. Look, that's not like. Ultimately, we respect the British Boxing Board of Control. I want them to be comfortable, and also I don't want to just start going rogue and doing exhibitions and stuff like that. But we need clarity in terms of the suspension status of Conor Benn, of which there is none.
Right. So. And there may not be any. So last question, if then Eubank looks at this and says, well, to hell with this this contractual weight, and this guy's popped dirty to some extent. What if I come in at 62 or don't weigh in at 57 and the fight's still on anyway? You think there's room for him now to...
Also, we're not. This isn't a bargaining situation. This is situations that have to be dealt with. Also, Chris Eubank, under his agreement, has the right to walk away from this fight. He chose to absorb all the information and make a decision, of which he said, I spoke to my experts, I'm happy for this fight to take place. The weight is another issue, and I've had the question, do you think that with all the controversy around comments around the weight, that was actually behind the board's decision as well? The answer is quite possibly. If it was just a championship fight between two middleweights, maybe they would have made a different decision. But, we are where we are, and we'll update in due course.
I appreciate all the detail and always for the time. Radio Rahim with Eddie Hearn.